Some of us spend the majority of our lives trying to figure out who we are. We try on different identities and labels, seeing if any feel like they fit. Sometimes they fit temporarily before we once again feel lost. Who am I? What makes me think I'm special? Who do I think I am? When I was first trying to find myself, I saw the world as a very hostile place. I saw myself as someone very small and insignificant. I felt I had to fight to get my due, and that improving my life was difficult, if not impossible. I thought my defensive behaviors were necessary to show how strong I was. But looking back, I realized that I was codependent, emotionally abusive, judgmental, insecure, and had little respect or regard for myself. And it wasn't just a teen thing. Into my 20s and early 30s, I continued to treat people disrespectfully while expecting to be treated with respect in return. For instance, I remember flicking my cigarette ashes into my boyfriend's hair after he said something that offended me. I would never have put up with him doing that to me. Yet I felt entitled to do it to him. I even bragged about it to my friends. Years later, as a young mother, I remember kicking the door behind my man after he canceled our plans last minute. I felt entitled to throw a temper tantrum. This was a common theme in my life. I blamed everyone else for my behavior. My boyfriends, my parents, the government, the patriarchy, the rich. I blamed everyone except myself. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was acting out my separateness in harmful ways that increased my feelings of separateness. Unconsciously, I yearned for community and connection, but I didn't realize it at the time. When I found such connections, they were fleeting. For a while, I felt a smidgen of belonging to the street culture in my hometown. We were a motley crew of misfits, as most street communities are. I didn't fit in so much as I blended in, which was something I needed at the time after leaving a physically abusive relationship. The next time I felt belonging was in the adult entertainment industry. People showed appreciation for me constantly. I wasn't making minimum wage anymore. For some reason, making minimum wage made me feel like the scourge of society. Most minimum wage employers treated me like shit. In the strip clubs, I got respect. In the change rooms, I got camaraderie. I constantly met interesting people with whom I immediately recognized as equals because we were all strippers and our customers. My feeling of separateness decreased a lot when I became a stripper because I had a community. But it also increased because I felt even more separate from my family and the larger society. I felt my otherness as I created stories to hide my work and adopted a fake name. I belonged in the adult entertainment community, but my feeling of separateness from the rest of society continued to deepen. I was 31 years old when I first learned that we are all energy in a field of energy. That was a paradigm shift that transformed me almost instantly. The law of attraction, that what we put out is what we get back, made a lot of sense to me. I could see how it manifested in my personal interactions with people. If I was sweet, people were usually sweet in return. If I was moody, their previous sweetness could turn into moodiness with me. I'd called it bad energy for years without realizing that it truly was bad energy, or, in Dr. Bruce H. Lipton's words, destructive energies as opposed to constructive energies. This epiphany was life-changing, but difficult for me to practice nonetheless. I had the knowledge that we are all energy, and I was trying to implement that knowledge in my life. However, it took time for the knowledge to become knowing. I found that whenever I began to feel like I was on the precipice of profound spiritual understanding, something happened in my life that sent me into my separateness again. A pit bull attack, an infidelity, a disabling pharmaceutical injury, COVID. I lived life as a victim of circumstances, separate and alone. I intuitively knew that if I could just understand the spiritual dream that I chased, I wouldn't be affected so deeply by circumstances. That's when I realized that everyone has circumstances. I am not the only person who has ever suffered a devastating pharmaceutical injury. People get cheated on all the time. Some spouses even look the other way. All of us endured COVID. Everything that has ever happened to me has also happened to other people. Therefore, it's pointless to wallow in self-pity. Furthermore, none of us can control our circumstances. The only thing we can control is our perception of our circumstances. I finally realized that I needed to change the way I perceived my world if I didn't want to be miserable anymore. It had nothing to do with circumstances and everything to do with how I viewed each circumstance as it arose. What an awakening! What an opportunity to be happy! I conjured up the relentless strength that I'd had as stripper Trina. I threw myself into books and personal development. I started with spiritual literature, then moved into Stoicism, shadow work, and ancient Greek philosophy. Then I dove into Tantra because it was too tantalizing not to. Through my research, I came to understand that there are 3 aspects of ourselves that exist simultaneously: the divine self, the manifested self, and the shadow self. In this book, I will touch on all 3 aspects with particular emphasis on the divine self, because, in my opinion, it is the most difficult of the 3 concepts to understand. So Tantra teaches that each of us is a powerful manifestation of what many call the universe, creator, higher power, Shiva, God, goddess, and more. We exist as individual manifestations of God essence, so that God can literally experience itself through us. In non-dual Tantra, non-dual means that God is not separate from us. There's no guy in the sky judging us. Instead, everything is an expression of the divine, including you and I. You can think of it like this. God is looking out through all of our eyes, experiencing all of the possibilities of existence through us. Wayne Dyer described it like this. If God is the ocean, then each of us is a glass full of God. So we are made of the same essence, but existing as individual experiences. As you can see, this idea is not unique to Tantra. Many spiritual traditions affirm that the divine presence exists within us. Here's how this truth is expressed in different religions. Christianity. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. This verse affirms that we are reflections of the masculine and feminine divine. Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? The divine is not external, it lives within us. Hinduism. Thou art that. This phrase means that our true essence is the same as the supreme reality. I am the Self, O Gudakesha, seated in the hearts of all creatures. The divine exists in the heart of every being. Islam. We are closer to him than his jugular vein, which means the divine is not distant, it is as close as our own breath. He who knows himself knows his Lord. Self-awareness is the path to divine awareness. Buddhism. Look within. You are the Buddha. So enlightenment comes from realizing one's own divine nature. All beings have Buddha nature. Every sentient being carries the potential for awakening. Judaism. The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. The divine breath flows through us all. And the soul of man is the lamp of the Lord. Our very soul is a spark of divine light. Every one of these traditions teaches that divinity is within us. Tantra takes it a step further. Everything we see, experience, and are is a manifestation of the Creator exploring itself through us. Since we are all manifestations of divine energy, whether you call it God, the universe, or Shakti, we constantly influence and are influenced by the energy around us. Science is beginning to confirm what ancient spiritual traditions have always known. We are energy vibrating at different frequencies. Studies have shown that different emotions correspond to different energetic vibrations. Love is one of the highest frequencies, but many times higher is the frequency of authenticity. Why is authenticity the highest? Authenticity connects us to ourselves. When we can accept and embrace who we are without apology or fear, we vibrate at a super high frequency. This attracts people to us, making us authentically irresistible. If you catch yourself feeling jealous or envious of a high energy, authentic person, it likely means you need to connect more meaningfully with who you truly are. You are likely operating from an illusion of yourself, one that makes you believe that you are less than others. I assure you that you are not less than others. You are equal, and don't let anyone make you feel like you need to apologize for existing. Your existence is a beautiful celebration of the creative force of the universe. As you go through this book, try to remember this core truth about who you are. At first, it may seem too incredible to believe, but as you ponder it more, you will begin to not only believe it, but know it. Being called back to who you really are is a process that once started can never be reversed. By the time you finish this book, you will know who you are. I encourage you to write your thoughts in a journal as you read through this volume for the best results.